Yeah, I'm trying to see how close y'all were being here. All right. Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to a home of God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Just a few more weary days and then I'll fly away to a land where joys never end. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Let's pray. Almighty God, we're so thankful for this day, that day. We're thankful for this new Bible study, giving us a chance to pause and do our week, study your word, fellowship. We pray for those that are sick here in the congregation, those in our extended families, others that we may not know about. Pray that you will bring them, heal them, and pray for those that are waiting on them, the doctors and nurses. Their strength back. Pray for those that have lost loved ones. Pray for Ron and his family. That you give them this time. Thankful for Jesus. It's in his name we pray. All right. Divided Kingdom number 13, 2 Kings 3. I don't know the answers to 2 and 4. You're going to have to give them to me. First, you got your list with you? I don't. Oh, we're in bad trouble. I'm going to have to go back there in the hall and count it out. All right. Trina's going to save us this time. All right, here we go. First, 2 Kings. Y'all stay with me. Help me along the way. You already know where I'm at. I was thinking, after he started all that stuff, and he's done it many times, maybe what we'll do is we'll do it all together and then just record it on tape and call him up and do it. Huh? Yeah. Let's say, thanks, you inspired us.
Number 2 Kings chapter 3, beginning of verse 1 says, Now Jehoram, the son of Ahab, began to reign over Israel in Samaria the 18th year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, and reigned 12 years, and he wrought evil in the sight of the Lord, but not like his father and like his mother, for he put away the image of Baal that his father had made. Nevertheless, he cleaved to the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. He departed not therefrom. And Naashon, king of Moab, was a sheep master, and rendered unto the king of Israel 100,000 lambs and 100,000 rams with wool. But it came to pass, when Ahab was dead, that the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel, and the king Jehoram went out of Samaria at the same time and numbered all of Israel, and he went and sent to Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, saying, The king of Moab hath rebelled against me. Wilt thou go with me against Moab to battle? And he said, I will go up. I am as thou art, my people as thy people, and my horses as thy horses. And he said, Which way shall we go up? And he answered, The way through the wilderness of Edom. So the king of Israel went, and the king of Judah, and the king of Edom, and they fetched a compass of 7 days' journey, and there was no water for the host, for the cattle, and for the cattle that followed them. Verse number 10. Eric, you will read.
And the king of Israel said, Alas, that the Lord hath called these 3 kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. But Jehoshaphat said, Is there not here a prophet of the Lord, that we may inquire of the Lord by him? And one of the kings of Israel's servants answered and said, Here is Elisha, the son of Shaphat, that poured water on the hands of Elijah. And Jehoshaphat said, The word of the Lord is with him. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat and the king of Edom went down to him. And Elisha said unto the king of Israel, What have I to do with thee? Get thee to the prophets of thy father and to the prophets of thy mother. And the king of Israel said unto him, Nay, the Lord hath called these 3 kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. And Elisha said, As the Lord of hosts liveth, before whom I stand, surely were it not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat the king of Judah, I would not look toward thee, nor see thee. And now bring me a minstrel. And it came to pass, when the minstrel played, that the hand of the Lord came upon him. He said, Thus saith the Lord, Make this valley full of ditches. For thus saith the Lord, Ye shall not see wind, neither shall ye see rain, yet that valley shall be filled with water, that ye may drink, both ye and your cattle and your beasts.
And this is the delight thing in the sight of the Lord. He will deliver the Moabites also into your hand. And you shall slay every fenced city and every choice city, and shall fell every good tree, and stop all wells of water, and mar every good piece of land with stones. And it came to pass in the morning, when the meat offering was offered, that behold, there came a water by the way of Edom, and the country was filled with water. And when all the Moabites heard that the kings were come up to fight against them, they gathered all that were able to put on armor, and upward consumed the water. And they rose up early in the morning, and the sun shone upon the water in the Moabites. Saw the water on the other side as red as blood, and they said, This is blood, the kings are surely slain. And they said to one another, Now therefore go up to the school. And when they came to the camp of Israel, the Israelites rose up and smote the Moabites, so that they fled before them, that they went forth slaying Moabites, even in their country. And they beat down the city, and on every good piece of land cast every man his stone, and filled it. And they stopped all the wells of water, and felled all the good trees. Only Kirhaseth left they the stones thereof, howbeit the slingers went about it and smote it. And when the king of Moab saw the battle was too sore for him, he took with him 700 men that drew swords to break through even as the king of Edom. But they could not. Then he took his eldest son that should have reigned in his stead, and offered him for a burnt offering upon the wall. And there was a great indignation against Israel, and they departed from him and returned to their own land.
Very good. Thank you. All right, question number 1. Who was Jehoram?
King, or he was the son of Ahab.
Son of Ahab, the king of Trina, could you give us the kings of the northern kingdom in order now, starting with Jeroboam?
Jeroboam, Nadab, Baasha, Elah, Zimri, Omri, Ahab, Jehoram.
All right. Oh, she done had them down, huh? Oh, that's good. All right. I tell you what, if you will, if you've got something to write with, turn your paper over and write northern. Put down there, spell it. You're not going to be ready on spelling. The first one was Jeroboam, first king of the northern tribes, the 10 tribes. The second one was Nadab. Third one was Baasha, Baasha. All right, that's 3. Elah, Elah. Zimri. All right. Omri. Ahab. And Jehoram. All right, so Jehoram was what number? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How many did Brother Shepherd say there were in the northern kingdom? 19, I think is what it is. So we're almost halfway on that. So that's good. All right, on the southern kingdom, just right there next to it. Question number 3 says, who was Jehoshaphat? If Jehoram was the king of the northern kingdom, Jehoshaphat was the king of the southern kingdom, which is also known as Judah. All right, so the first king of Judah was Rehoboam. Who was Rehoboam? He was Solomon's son. All right, that's the first one. Who's number 2? Abijah. Bijah. Okay, I'll have to check on that. I thought they were 2 separate people too. All right, Abijah. All right, who's number 3? Asa. Jehoshaphat. So we have Jehoshaphat. Question number 4 says what number was Jehoshaphat of the kings? 4. So we've got, I don't know how many there are in the southern kingdom either as far as the total number. We'll get there, I promise. All right, thank you there, Trina. That's good. Number 5. Question number 5. 20 in the southern kingdom. All right, so there's 19 in the northern and 20 in the southern. All right, so question number 5. How does the Bible describe Jehoram? Verse number 3 or 2. All right, so he's described as wicked, but not as wicked as his mother and father. What was the difference between the 2? 3. What? All right, he got rid of the idols, one specific idol, which was Baal. All right, and that was the one that Jezebel was the daughter of the king that was the main god, or the Baal was the god from where she was from, who Ahab married. But so he got rid of that particular idol. What did he hold on to? Question number 6, whose example did Jehoram follow? Jeroboam, right? So he went all the way back to Jeroboam. What do we know about Jeroboam as far as idolatry is concerned? All right, so when they divided the kingdom, Jeroboam was the one who set up the 2 idols, one in Dan and one in Bethel. And so what did Jehoram do? He got rid of Baal, which is one of the idols of one of the Canaanite countries that they had taken the land from, that God had told them to destroy all of it. And he got rid of that, and he held on to what Jeroboam had set up. What does that tell us as far as people are concerned? We would describe Jehoram as not so bad, right? But God described him as what? Wicked. He got rid of some of it, but he didn't get rid of all of it. If we're going to be right by God's standard, we have to go all the way and get rid of whatever stands in the way as far as God, ungodliness, wickedness, worldliness, whatever it is. We can't hold on to bits and pieces. And it's important to look at it. Did Jehoram have opportunity to go further back? He could have gone back to Solomon. He could have gone back to David. He could have gone back to Moses. He had the right example, but he decided that he wanted to follow after one who had already deviated a little bit further. What does this tell us about Reformation? Does it tell us anything about reforming in the church or in religion?
There's a lot of difficulty in going backwards once you get so far.
Yeah. Once you cross the line and start going, it's hard to back up. Sometimes people try to do it, and I've talked to people even recently as far as how society is going down in the religious world and the church, as far as looking back at the Old Testament in the period of the judges. What was the pattern within the judges as far as God was concerned? They would be faithful for a while, and then they'd go off into idolatry for a while, and then they'd come back up, and they'd be faithful if judge would come along. And so they were up and down, up and down, up and down. And eventually, it got them to the point where they never went back. And I think that the same is true for us today. You look at the long-term picture, the church was established. There was an apostasy with the Catholic Church and that. Then you have the Reformation, the Reformation with Calvin and those people there that moved back towards the truth of the Bible. After the Bible was printed, everybody had an opportunity to read for themselves and understood that the Catholic Church was not teaching it according to the Scriptures. And so that is what caused Reformation, because the people could see that it was wrong. And so we have the church up here, and then we have a digression into apostasy, then we have a Reformation. And so we've had denominationalism, or the church has been restored, and now it's starting to fall off again with worldliness. I've talked to people who said, praying that, there's going to be an awakening of people today that's going to come back to the truth. We're going to have another rise towards living or having the truth in the church, and the church faithful to God, and people striving to do it the way that God's pattern gives it out. Is that possible?
You gotta have a leadership.
Okay, all right. Yes, you do have to have the leadership to do it. Does that mean that it has to be preachers and teachers?
You gotta have willingness within the group.
Okay, I think that you have to have the individuals who have got a knowledge of the Bible and understand where error is, so that we can move away from whatever it may be, whether it's doctrinal or moral or whatever it is. We cannot have a rise to the truth and righteousness if we don't know what it is, and we are not pressing to get that. And it doesn't. We're all leaders to some degree, and so we, at some point, we have to make a decision wherever we're at that we're going to pursue it ourselves, no matter what anybody else does, and seek to find those that we can associate with that are doing their hardest, their best to put the truth first in their lives as well. Any comments about that? He followed the wrong example. He didn't go far enough back to find the truth and to apply the truth to his life. And that's true in every age and dispensation. Number 3, who was Mesha? Verse number 3. All right, he was the king of Moab. What was the relationship, I think I've got the next, between Israel and Moab during the reign of Ahab? Okay. All right. They were subservient to Israel, and so they supplied, just like when Babylons came in to threaten Jerusalem and Judah. What did they say? We want your gold, we want your silver, we want this and that. And so what did Israel do? They shipped it off down to Babylon because they didn't want to be killed. Same situation here with Mesha. He had been overtaken by Israel, and they had demanded of him what? How much did he had to supply to Israel? I don't have that down as a question, but all right, so that's a pretty good quantity of wool and meat and that sort of thing that they were having to supply to Israel to maintain their safety from them. Number 9, what request was made by Jehoram of Jehoshaphat? Verse number 7.
Go fight with me.
All right. Have we seen this prior to this time as far as an appeal to go fight? You remember who it was by chance? All right. Was it Jehoshaphat himself? Okay, so Jehoshaphat had been invited by Ahab to go fight against the Syrians a time back. What was his response to Ahab? I don't know the book or the chapter of the verse. Just about exactly the same thing. My people are your people, my horses are your horses, I'll go with you. And what happened on that occasion as far as that goes? Ahab says, I'm going to dress down and you dress up, we'll go fight. Ahab got killed and Jehoshaphat almost got killed by doing that. And now what happens here? Exactly the same invitation, exactly the same possibilities, and what does Jehoshaphat do? Exactly the same thing. Didn't learn his lesson at all as far as aligning himself with the northern kingdom, those who had rejected God, and he was expecting a different result from that. We don't know, well, we do know exactly what happened on this account as far as that goes, but people don't learn. It was interesting, I thought, when Brother Shepherd was talking about 6 months, 6 days, 6 years. It doesn't take long for people to deviate from the truth. When Peter's had been told 6 days before that Jesus was going to build his church, and 6 days later he's going to make a tabernacle with Jesus, Elijah, and Moses. And so we see how quickly people can deviate from the truth and a long way from it there. Jehoshaphat didn't seem to learn his lesson, even though it almost cost him his life the first time. We just think things are not going to turn out the same. That's defined by most self-help books, right? Doing the same thing, expecting different results. So Jehoshaphat was not altogether thinking straight. Number 10, how long was the journey before trouble began with the endeavor? Verse number 9. Alright, it says they fetched a compass and went 7 days, and they began to run out of water. Must have been a pretty good sized army. They had all the northern kingdoms had their army. Jehoshaphat had his army, and they had picked up Edom because they were going through that particular part of the world or that part of the country, so they picked up that army as well. Edom was not Israel. They were a foreign nation as well, and so it was not an alliance that was coordinated or aligned with God. And it's interesting to know how many times did they appeal to God or talk to God before they, when they were putting this plan together. I think it's interesting to note that they did not say anything or appeal to God for any direction or guidance as far as this was concerned. They determined to do it, and they were going to do it, and they put together a plan and went on with it. We've seen several things that have happened in the past where people have not things have not turned out well because they failed to find out what God's will was before they started on that particular plan, whatever it may be. Yeah, yeah, that was one of the tribe of Esau was Edom. It would make him not a Jew, because it would be of the lineage of Abraham, but he was not of the chosen seed. So Abraham had a lot of seed from different ones, but the lineage, the one that God had promised him through, was Jacob. And so that was the difference. And then there was animosity between Esau and Jacob all along, because Jacob stole his birthright and his blessing, and so there was always a problem between them, or most of the time anyway. And probably I would surmise that they probably went along with them because of the fact that they wanted to be spared as well. They didn't want to be caught up on the wrong side of Israel and Judah at this particular time, so they just joined forces with them as opposed to trying to withstand them. All right, number 11, who suggested to inquire of the Lord concerning the plan and the providence? Verse number 11. Jehoshaphat, is there not any prophet of the Lord that we may inquire of the Lord by him? All right, so he's standing among it's Jehoshaphat, the king of Edom, and Jehoram. Two out of the three don't believe or not practicing, as far as religion is concerned, the worship of Jehovah God. They were idolatrous in nature, and so he's asking about talking to God. It's interesting that he, at this particular point, his religion kicked in because he was in dire straits, and so he wanted to direct it. It's not to idols, it's not to gods in general, but to God himself, because he understood the truth. Did all three of these kings understand the truth? Two out of the three we know. And I think number 12 kind of tells us that. It said, who made the kings aware of the presence of Elisha in the area? Verse number 11. Yeah, it was a servant of the king of Israel, the idolatrous king of the northern tribes. Those people knew about Elijah and Elisha. So we know that the northern kingdom and many of the people there knew the truth as far as God was concerned and worship was concerned and what idolatry was. And they knew who the faithful people were that were serving God, because they knew about the prophet Elisha and what had happened, and Elijah and what had happened and what he did for him. So they had no excuses for being the way that they were. They just determined that it was in their best interest with whatever was going in this life and their life, that it was better for them to know about it and not do anything about it. Can we take anything away from that as far as today is concerned? Are there not a lot of people that know a lot about God, about Jesus Christ, and a lot of people even that know about the Church of Christ? Used to be a lot of people would say the Church of Christ, y'all are that bunch that believes you're the only one that's going to heaven. Y'all don't have anything, y'all don't do anything. There were a lot of different things that were said about the Church of Christ. I've not encountered that quite as often as it used to be, because there's not as many holding the line as far as the Bible of the church is concerned nowadays. But they knew, that's the point, and they just continued on down the path. 13. What did Elisha tell the king of Israel to do for guidance? 11:13.
So go seek counsel from your own gods and prophets.
All right. right, so I see this probably as a little sarcastic. What are you doing here? You don't do anything else as far as God is concerned, and now you showed up asking about this. What's wrong with the way you've been doing things all along? Why are you here now? Is that a good or a bad attitude? I don't know that's exactly how it came across, but is that the right way to deal with things? I think at some point you have to be straightforward with people. I don't know if sarcasm is the right way to do things, but sometimes people are going to be what they're going to be and do what they're going to do, and so they have to understand where your position is, and that's one way of doing it. But anyway, he said, you got guidance before from other places. What's causing you, or why don't you just go use those gods again? Number 14, why did Elisha? Oh, let's see, I didn't get that one right. Why did God through Elisha listen to Job? Why did God through Elisha not listen to Jehoram? Okay, why did Elisha? Let's see. Psalm number.
True.
A, B, or C. All right, why did Elisha, somebody help me. Why did God through Elisha listen to Jehoram? Why did God through Elisha listen to Jehoram? Yep. Now we've got the question down.
Because of Jehoshaphat.
All right, so God listened to the situation or dealt with that situation not because of Jehoram, but because of Jehoshaphat. Now we have times where the good, or the people who are trying to live right, are suffering consequences because of their relationship to those who are bad. And then there are times over here where the bad are being blessed by those who are striving to live right. How do we know the difference in our own lives? If we're associating with the wrong crowd, how do we know whether God's going to continue to bless us and be with us and help us through that situation, or He's going to be a benefit to them, or whether it's going to cost us? And we have to deal with this all the time in that respect. We have to deal with people who are outside in the world. We have to deal with ungodly people at times. It's a part of that. Can we know in the decisions that we make whether or not we're going to be blessed by our associations with those who are outside or not trying to live right?
It sounds to me like this is a different Jehoshaphat, because he already said, Ahab, where's someone we can talk to? And then he wasn't supported in that battle.
Yeah, no.
And so now he asked again, so there must be a difference in Jehoshaphat for God to support him now when he is supported.
After he made the same mistake twice, too.
I don't know how to answer your question.
Yeah, well, I don't know that there's an easy answer to it, but we have to, in every decision we make as far as our associations with people outside the church, we have to make a determination whether it's in the best interest of having an influence for good and being blessed by it, or whether we're just going along because of the benefits we might get in the current situation as opposed to the glory of God and our eternal salvation. That should be a factor that we're looking at in every relationship. Jehoshaphat, whether his approach to God was a little different there, but his answer was the same thing as far as with Ahab and with Jehoram. It was just in God's peradventure or providence or will that things were different this time. We have to always make the best decision that will bring honor and glory to God. If it means rejecting certain circumstances, situations, and people, then we have to do that. We can't rely on the possibility of it going one way or the other. A lot of times we just we say, well, God's going to get us through this. God will work it out for us, but He's going to expect us to make the best decision according to His will for us and for those that we're with, whether it be rejecting the relationship or rejecting whatever's going on there, or is going along. We have to look at it in the long term, as whether it's going to, how it's going to affect our eternal salvation.
Well, even in Ahab's case, when Ahab was repentant, he changed at least how things happened. He got it just because he saw how repentant. So it's really, where are you when are you up or down in your being repentant, in your service?
Yep. And I don't have the answer to that question. We have to answer that question. We know just exactly which direction to go in every aspect of our life. But we have to use it, kind of looking back at the beginning, is where Jehoshaphat did not start out appealing to God for direction. He went right ahead and did it. And now that he's in the middle of a problem again, he's looking to God. And we want to try to avoid that if we possibly can in our lives, so that we can have God in our corner because we made the right decisions from the very beginning. Make sense? I hope. Number 15. Thank you. What did Elisha use in the process of approaching God? A minstrel, a harp player. We don't have any idea how that went as far as approaching God. Can we learn anything from it that might apply to us?
He calmed down a little bit before he approached God. Be upset about how they reacted.
Okay, that's a possibility, I guess.
God can approach us in whatever way.
God can. Can we approach God in any way we want? No. So we can't use this as an example as far as music. We can approach God, and we do approach God in music when we worship, psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. Using the voice, not instruments. So there's nothing wrong with that as far as that goes. I think that we do that. Singing with prayer and that sort of thing is our approach to God. And God does answer our prayers in that respect. Having somebody to do that for us and having other things, that's a little bit different type of situation. Any comments along that line? 16. What had to be done to receive the blessing of God? Verse number 16. Yeah, had to get out there and do a little work. And so a lot of times God will bless us with things without us having to do things. I can think of particularly being born in this time and place with all the blessings of this country. We didn't have a hand in doing anything that caused the blessings of God in that respect. But there are things that have to be done in order to receive certain blessings from God. We can use the plan of salvation in that respect. People have to hear, believe, repent, confess, and be baptized. In order to receive the forgiveness of their sins, we have to confess our faults, repent of them, pray God for forgiveness. Those are conditions, just like digging the ditches here. So there are certain blessings that come based upon meeting the conditions of God, and this was one of the things that was laid out by God for them to be taken care of in this particular situation. Number 17, what was missing from filling the ditches with water? Rain, wind, and rain. All right, so this was a miraculous situation, not a natural situation. What's the phrase, number 18? It is but a light thing, meaning verse number 18. All right, it's easy for God to take care of the situation. Is there anything too hard for God? No, there's not anything that's too hard for God. Can God build a rock that He can't pick up? We won't answer that question. I'm being a little facetious there. Number 19, when did the water for the armies appear?
The morning.
The morning. What were they doing in the morning? Alright, the sacrifice, they were in the process of worshiping. It's kind of interesting. The morning sacrifice, was that for the southern kingdom and Jehoshaphat? Was that for Jehoshaphat, Jehoram, the king of Edom? I think, and I don't have a verse on this, but I think that it was probably the Jewish part of the law of Moses that was being practiced by Jehoshaphat at this time. I don't know if the others were involved in it or not, but it's interesting that they were worshiping, or he was worshiping at this particular time when the blessing came, and it does show that even in his engagement with people who were outside, he still did not surrender his religion and his worship and that sort of thing at the same time. So he was striving to be faithful to God even in this situation, and that's probably why it was handled the way it was. Any comments? Questions? How were the Moabites tricked into slaughter by Israel? Alright, so they thought that there had been a conflict between the three kings, that they had killed themselves. God had used this particular technique to destroy the armies of the enemies of Israel at one time. And so they fought among themselves and killed themselves. And so they thought maybe this possibility might have happened within this alliance here. And so they thought that they were going to go in and have free picking on all the spoils and cost them. 21, what did the king of Moab do when he was defeated by Israel? Verses 26 and 27.
Offered his only son as a sacrifice.
Alright, so he had tried to take 700 men and fight his way through to safety, was not able to do it. It's interesting to note, one of the commentaries on it says that he picked Edom to try to go through because he thought he might be able to get through them because they were not Israelites and they might give in just a little bit, but they did not. And so he was held within the city, not able to escape. And so he got up on the wall and sacrificed his son. Also, there was said something in the commentary about the familiarity with Abraham and the calling of God to offer Isaac on the altar and the blessing of God that came from that. And so him thinking along the same lines, he might be blessed by his God by the actual sacrifice of his son, which did not work out. God has never called for any kind of a human sacrifice in any form or fashion there, other than Jesus Christ himself, which had to be done for the salvation of mankind. Any questions or comments? All right. All did good. The hymn of invitation will be number 382. 382. Make a few announcements and update a few things before we extend the Lord's invitation. I want to thank you again for being here. Appreciate so much your participation in Bible study, more things that are going on here. Just want to remind you of those that we've got on the list to pray for. We'll continue to remember Brother and Sister Raines, Ronnie Martin, Montvale, Kim Bennett, Bobby's sister, David Payton, Karis Durham. I want to remember Laney, who's home, not doing well. Also, we want to remember Bobby. Bobby has been having some problems. It's an infection. He's at home tonight. He's on medication. Has had some tests run. Solicit your prayers on his behalf. Lois has had to go to Paris to be with her mom, so she's out of town right now. So that's who I've got on the list right now. Is there anyone that we need to add? We want to remember the Hartleys, passing of Bobby Sanderson. We have an update as far as.
They're doing a great sound service at the United Methodist at 1 on Saturday.
Appreciate if you pray for that family as well. They're in that situation. Are there other announcements as far as people we need to keep in our prayers? We will not be having a business meeting this week. This Sunday, it'll be a week from Sunday. Push it back a week. Also, camp is coming up. Forms in the foyer. There's a sheet back there. We got 20 spots. There's 18 left. So get your name on there tonight if you want to go. Isn't that how they do sales everywhere else? If you don't do it today, you might miss out. It helped me, though, to know kind of what the number is ahead of time. So if you could sign up on that sheet, it's right there on the table right there at the very back. Would appreciate that so much. Getting things together for that. We've got some people that are out that have requested some forms. Brandon Hawks, family may possibly coming down from Michigan, so we're looking forward to that. Some others. We'd love to have everybody. Johnson's, yeah. If everybody could be down there, that would be great. If you can't make it because of work or other things, we understand that as well. We'll have a good time and learn a lot. Let's see. One other thing that I want to make mention of, we want to congratulate Chandler. He's going to be graduating here in just a few weeks. Graduation commencement is Friday evening, May the 19th, at 7 o'clock. We're all invited to that. If you'd like to be a part of that, I know that you would appreciate that. That's Friday night, and then on Saturday there's going to be a graduation party for him. Is that in the Hartleys? 5 to 7. And, have you be a part of that as well. Anything else that I need to make an announcement of? All right, we'll extend the Lord's invitation. The hymn of invitation is number 382. All right. Now I'm going to talk about excuses. Now, I messed up very start tonight. I make a lot of excuses. I'm old, my mind's bleeding. I'm tired and wore out. My wife's spinning all over me. I can make all kinds of excuses. But I'm not going to talk about me. I'm going to ask you. Are you a pretty good excuse maker? When it comes to doing what's right, how good an excuse maker are you? Good? You know what to do. Well, let's just go down this path right here. What about nutrition? You know what's good for you. Why don't you eat right? What excuse do you have? Are you a pretty good excuse maker? I asked the question. All right, so y'all didn't do too well on that one. What about exercise? What kind of excuses you got for that? Pretty good at that? So, we've established pretty clearly, distinctly, that we're all, in some form or fashion, pretty good at doing that. And I just do that in a lighthearted sort of way, but there's something that's very serious about making excuses in our lives. We have to be very careful that we don't try to justify actions that we know are right, especially in the spiritual realm, and feel like we're okay and it's going to be okay. We can get by with some of the things we've talked about. But when it comes to our spiritual lives, our religious lives, there is no such thing as a good excuse. And we will be held accountable for it. Jesus told his story in Luke 14 about the certain man who made the great supper and invited those men to come. And they started making excuses. One, I bought a piece of land. One, I bought some oxen. One, I've been married. All sound like pretty good reasons not to go to a supper that one has been invited to. But in this particular account, the one who's making the invitation, the man, is representative of God. The invitation is the invitation to be a part of religious Christianity, the church, and the activities of the church. And these people made excuses. Work problems, marriage problems, kid problems, all these things. But when it comes to our soul and God and those things that are most important in life, eternity, those are not good excuses. And if you go down and you look at that last part, it says to them, and the Lord said unto the servant, go into the highways and the hedges and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. For I say to you, that none of those men which were bidden shall taste of my supper. God says that if you're going to make excuses about your spiritual life and justify it in your heart and mind, that you're going to miss out. We don't want to miss out. We can make light of things as far as, how we don't fulfill all of our obligations as far as what we know is right to some degree in our general life. But when it comes to our spiritual life and our hope of heaven, we've got to hold ourselves to the line. We've got to be sure that we're not justifying anything or making excuses when we can actually be where we're supposed to be and doing what we're supposed to be doing as far as God is concerned. And it begins with our relationship with God. Are we making an excuse for not doing what God expects us to do to make our lives right with Him as far as sin in our lives? A lot of people do that. think it's going to be okay. I'm going to have plenty of time, It's not a convenient time. That's just an excuse. If you know what's right, you know what God has said as far as becoming a Christian, then you need to do that. Don't make any more excuses. Do what God expects of you. Believing that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, repenting of your sins, confessing Him as the Son of God, and being baptized. There's no good excuse for not doing what you know is right. And as Christians, our responsibilities are great. Many people think when they're baptized that that's the end game. That's just the beginning, and we've got responsibilities that come with the blessing of being a child of God. We have to live up to those. We're not talking about perfection because God knows that we're never going to be perfect people, but He's given us a way to straighten those things out so that we can, once we admit it or confess it and repent of it, that we can straighten it out and pray to God and He'll forgive us and we can get back on the path. But we've got to make the change in our lives as far as that is concerned as well. Do you have an excuse tonight for not doing what God expects of you? I hope that you don't. If you've had one in the past, get rid of it now and obey Jesus Christ. You can do it right now while we get to standing while we sing.
Kneel at the cross, Christ will meet you there. He intercedes for you. Lift up your voice, leave the man your care, and begin life anew. Kneel at the cross, kneel at the cross, leave every care, every care. Kneel at the cross, kneel at the cross. Jesus will meet you there. Kneel at the cross, give your idols up, look unto ground above. Turn not again to our sparkling cup, trust always in His love. Kneel at the cross, kneel at the cross, leave every care, every care. Kneel at the cross, kneel at the cross. Jesus will meet you there.
Almighty God, our loving Heavenly Father, we're so grateful unto Thee for our lives, for our health, for the time that we have to come before You to study Your Word. We pray You'll bless us in our endeavors and help us to go from this place strengthened and encouraged and knowing that You stand with us and protect us and guide us. We ask Heavenly Father to help us each day to think about Christ and the sacrifice that was made for us. Help us to use it to build on, to become what You would have us to be. Pray for the church, we pray for this country, we pray for the sick, we pray for those who are outside the kingdom, those who we don't love, that need guidance, and pray that You'll help us to be the kind of people that will shine light for them. Watch over us this night, keep us safe.